I think it's a good thing that we're talking about it, because if we're not talking about it, it'll just go on. So I'm more than happy that people are prepared to talk about it. It's easier to challenge somebody when they are open about it. The difficult thing is when you try and challenge somebody when you don't really know what their views are, and they don't express them, and they keep them hidden inside here. Then we have a harder task. It's easier to put people in their place when you know what they're about to say. So I think as a community, I want people to talk about it. I think that we will grow up, we'll become more modern, we will be able to contribute more. And there's a business case for this as well, which I think that some people perhaps don't accept. But in many of our countries, in the Muslim world, in the Sikh world, in the Hindu world, and the Middle East and wider communities, women are just not engaged with business and not engaged in society. And so in order for the communities itself to develop, the country to develop, really develop from where they are in their current economic standing, they really do need to get women in the workforce. They need to get women educated. And so by simply saying, no, you stay at home until I marry you off and then stay at home, they're actually denying the whole society, the whole of their country, the whole of their community, the ability to grow and the ability to become modern in the 21st century. And I think that is a strong case for saying that government should take the lead. In those countries where perhaps they haven't done so, the government takes the lead on this subject and is brave enough to talk about it and to enact laws if necessary to ensure that women are given some basic rights. We think that we've only touched the tip of the iceberg. I know that the forced marriage unit in this country, in the United Kingdom, would deal with something like 2,000 calls a year, and perhaps 500 or 600 where they actually have to intervene. We know that the Crown Prosecution Service and the police, we will probably prosecute a dozen killings a year in this country. We know that, as I said, killing is just tip of the iceberg. We know there are several dozen forced imprisonments, abductions, assaults, sexual offences, all motivated by honour. So those are merely the tip of the iceberg. Those are people that have come to our attention. Those are people who feel able to trust us with the circumstances that they are undergoing, so to speak. But we've also identified hidden victims. Suicide is a case in point. In the United Kingdom, South Asian women are 3 times more likely to kill themselves than any other group in society. Why is that, you might ask? Well, maybe because there's nowhere else for them to go. They are penned in, they're boxed in. That's the only thing they can do. When I did some research a year ago on train suicides, people jumping in front of trains, I found that 1/3 of all train suicides in this country took place between Slough and Southall. And if you don't know the demographics of Slough and Southall, they are both heavily South Asian parts of the country. Nobody did an ethnicity breakdown because it's impossible to do that. But you can work out for yourself that they're prepared to jump in front of trains, to take their children with them, all of those things to somehow get out of the situation they're in. And so we know that we are just scraping the top of that iceberg. What we need to do is enable people to feel more confident. And I think that by having the kind of media messages that we send out, by putting people in positions where they can do something about this, by talking about it frequently, by doing presentations and raising awareness, that's a means by which people will feel able to talk about it. There have been so many occasions when I have done a presentation at a conference, and I must have done, I don't know, 50 or 60 in the last couple of years, that somebody will come up to me afterwards, or to a police officer afterwards, and disclose what's happening to them. And that's in the conference venue. So if you can imagine what that must feel like outside in the homes when you do something on South Asian television, or when you do something on the media, the mainstream media, there will be people who feel able to come out and talk about it. But even then, we're talking about a very small number of people, given the number of people that we all expect to actually be suffering. Yes, again, we did a survey, we did a pilot in the Crown Prosecution Service about 2 years ago, where we looked at pretty much every case in 3 parts of the country. And we identified South Asians, we identified Middle Easterns, we found North Africans, we even found an Eastern European case. We basically, if you think about the parts of the world where allegedly honor is strong, where culture is strong, where family is supposedly strong. Those are the kinds of areas where you will find this kind of behavior. But again, a message I send out to people, basically, wherever you look, you will find. We in this country set up some hotlines to enable victims and survivors to come forward. And we set them up in the most bizarrest of places, really, in the northeast of England, where there isn't a very large non-white community, in Hampshire, which is in the south of England, again, not a very large non-white community. And you found dozens of cases in those areas. So you will be surprised. It doesn't matter how big the community is. So the metropolitan areas like London, Birmingham, Manchester, the large cities, you expect to find it there. But even where there are very small communities, small South Asian communities, small Middle Eastern communities, you will find some incidents of this type of behavior. The other thing I've come across is priorities. When I talk to community leaders, they say sometimes, well, Nazir, my priority is Islamophobia, or my priorities is the current attack on our community, or whatever it is, And because we're being attacked, we can't focus on things within the community. My name has appeared on the Nazi website saying, look, even one of them talks about this subject. So they think that by talking about it, you're giving fascists, the people who hate us, ammunition to have a go at us. And so they're part of their reasoning for not talking about it is that they think their priority should be on talking about them as a victim, rather than them as a perpetrator, or members of the communities as perpetrators. And my answer to that is simple. That 1 in 4 violent crimes take place in the home. That a young woman growing up in this country has more to fear from what's happening in the home than she has from anything that's happening outside. And that they must focus on that, because ultimately this is an issue of human rights, this is an issue of children's rights, this is an issue of the kind of rights that we take for granted. And if you don't stand up for this, you may as well give up. I try to explain to police officers, to prosecutors, to others working in this field, that just because you don't think it's serious doesn't mean that it isn't serious. Your first duty is to believe her. Your second duty is to act on what she says, never to poo-poo it, never to think, well, my family wouldn't harm me for that. Because if she believes it, then you must believe it. That if you have champions, if you have people, particularly men, speaking out on this subject, if they feel comfortable about talking about it and informed, that somehow they will take other people with them. Leaders will have followers. And if you don't have leaders, then nobody follows. And one of the things I've been conscious of is that the long-term solution to this is education. And those cultures, I guess, which have dealt with this better than, or sooner than others, have put in place some very good educational policies. So when you are in infant school or primary school, when you're very young, to learn then about the respective rights of men and women and the equality of the sexes, and that something is wrong and something is right, and that human rights are human rights, not just for men, has made an impact in the way people perhaps treat each other. If you don't have that sort of educational process or the curriculum, then you can rest assured you will get what you deserve. And I've said it frequently, and it's very pessimistic of me to say this, but generally if you're over 18 today, you're set in your ways about what you think. It takes a lot to change you and persuade you. So if you think that women are a lesser being, then you will think that. The way to deal with that is to work with the 8-year-olds and the 6-year-olds and make them appreciate the respective rights of men and women. And I do think that's the long-term solution. And we come up against lots of barriers there, because people don't really want to bring this into the school. For some reason, they think this is a family matter, and families should deal with it themselves. It's not something that the state should get involved in. But ultimately, the state are dealing with the consequences. So I think the state has a significant role in educating young people. When my son says to me, that I'm better than a girl, whatever it is, I challenge him on that. And I think it's important that we challenge people as young as we possibly can, so they can actually make up their own minds rather than take it from whatever source they eventually take it from. It takes great bravery and great courage to avoid being harmed. In some cases, I'm aware of a situation where the brother loves his sister more than he loves any other member of his family, but is still prepared to side with his father or uncle when she needs to be harmed. So you think that having developed a loyalty and developed a relationship with another member of your family that will stand up for you and support you, that they will stand up for you and support you in this situation. So I hope that was an answer, but it may be an answer in some cases. I think that the truth is that if you feel at any time that you are at risk, if you feel that you are going to be harmed or that threats are being made, that you must take them seriously. You know your family better than everybody else, so you know that it's something to be taken seriously. And I give this assurance that as far as the criminal justice agencies in this country are concerned, and as far as the government of this country are concerned, we will take you seriously. And if it requires witness protection, if it requires rehousing you, if it requires all sorts of responses, we have the means by which we can put that in place to protect you. So when a young lady, for example, rang me up, or didn't ring me up, she ran into me at a conference a couple of years ago and said, Nazir, in March, this is the month later, I'm going to Pakistan, they're going to force me into marriage. We have a fantastic forced marriage in this country. I put them in touch with her. They were able to give her a mobile phone. They had contacted the High Commission, the embassy, to ensure that we kept an eye on her throughout her trip to Pakistan in such a way that, and the Pakistani authorities as well, in such a way that everybody knew that she was protected. And if they know that she's protected, they lack courage to do something about it. And or courage is not the right word, but they lack the will to do something about it. And so she was protected. So, we will do all that we can to protect you. We will do, to my mind, I don't want to prosecute everybody. The jails are full already. I don't want people in jail. I don't want families torn apart. What I want is to protect the individual that's suffering or potentially suffering. So our first duty is to protect the citizen. Our first duty is to protect you, to protect the woman that's going through this. So come forward, seek some support. We have, even if you don't want to go to the police, there are a substantial number of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, women's groups, who are all aware of what's going on, who are able to provide you with the frontline support that you need. Because I want you safe, they want you safe. One of the things that we have done in this country is we have a national police strategy. We have a national policing strategy. We have a national prosecution strategy. We have government minimum standards set for all government agencies, so social services, housing, education. These are minimum standards of service. This is what the least is expected from everybody working in government when they come across a situation like this. Because from our point of view, that is how you are able to provide the right service, or at least the semblance of a right service. And I think that you will change people's behavior in this way if you all act in a coordinated way. But if you break off, and I've come across cases, unfortunately, where somebody says, I didn't understand it, and I told her to go away. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. If you don't understand it, there must be somebody in your organization or somebody that you're aware of that can provide you with some guidance that enables you then to provide some support for the individual in front of you.